Hi, Rainier. How you doing? I've got you queued up here. I want to take a look at your poster alongside the project specs. I don't want to get too involved in project specs because it'll just take too much time. There's a lot of specifications here. Plus, I think you have a pretty good idea of what you're doing in terms of being able to read a spec sheet and execute accordingly. So, what I want to do is I want to take a look at the poster itself, and immediately, what I want to do is there's a couple of things I think that we need to look at. First, this is you must use a grid, and I know that what you're doing here. I know that you're trying to establish this kind of angular layout, which I'm not quite sure how that fits in with photography itself. And in general, I think you have a lot of mixed messages in the poster itself. I think that you've got some really great relationships. So this is pretty good type right here. And immediately the first thing I see is I open this up and I say, what is this poster about? What's the dominant image? Dominant image right here, unfortunately, is this golfer right here. So when I opened this thing up, I thought this um, article or this poster was about golf. And I really did. So that's really a big issue right there about what you're going to decide to use as an image. A lot of choices. I'll get into that in a second. Another thing is you have these two images are kind of pointing at each other, and they're really at odds with each other. They're pointing at each other, so they're just competing. It's like bam, 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 like those two. What are those mountain goats that do that thing? But anyways, and so that's not a good relationship right there. Plus, you have this circular motif, and that's good. We're going to use that. I'm going to show you how we're going to use that in a second. But you have this image, and this image that they're basically the same image. So, a little bit of different angle, but basically the same image, same image. So I want to eliminate the use of these similar images, but use the idea of repeating this circle right here. And I think that's one of the things that we can do if you take a look at this week's presentation, specifically the um, um, these techniques for where am I here? Visual critical analysis. These techniques for integrating type with image and implied and or directional lines is a big one. So let me give you an example of what that would be. All right, so this image right here has this line right here, and that is just a tailor-made line to start your composition. Show you what I mean. I hit Command R here, bring up my rulers. I just want to pull a guide down here, and I'm going to put it right at his elbow, and we can see naturally where the type should start. That's saying if we use that image, okay? That's the very least. You want to look for clues like that. The type is good. I'm not too concerned about the type. I do have some suggestions as far as in terms of eliminating these unsightly gaps in your justified type. If you email me, I'll be glad to share those with you. As a matter of fact, I'll put them in the announcements. But shoot me a quick response to this, and I'll remember to do that. So we have the type is pretty good. This relationship to this image here is really good. I just can't figure out why it's cocked like that. Good balance in the composition, good type in the composition. Image use, we can help. I want to suggest some things, but I don't want to play art director with you, Rainier, because I think you have a good idea of what you're doing. I do want to give you some suggestions. Let me show you one thing. I was trying to do some research to see how we could just say things here without actually show. We could imply things without actually showing them. And I think one of the really good ways that we can do that is by using typography in interesting ways that will emulate this circular lens. And this is what I'm thinking right here. Okay, so you have this is obviously a piece for I mean, she's being photographed. You've got these circles here, so you don't necessarily have to create your typography in the shape of a circle, but you certainly can use a circular shape behind it, all right, to support the type. I think that kind of reinforcement is something that you could be very creative with. Food for thought there. As far as the camera itself goes, I think there's some really interesting, super interesting components in the camera that I think you could use as opposed to just concentrating on the lens. So basically, I think you've done a really good job here. I just like to think about those comments and how can we continue forward in this type of photograph with photographic um, expression in terms of mixing it with typography effectively. Okay. I want to show you one more thing before we call it a crit. Let me show you one more piece here. This is a wonderful piece here. Really super interesting. I am not a big fan of this center type here. I think this piece would be gorgeous if it were to follow the grid logically and place this type as a left align right rag. I think it would be beautiful. But that's an interesting image, and you could really use something like that to your advantage. Okay, so food for thought. Great job. Looking forward to seeing more. Thanks for being here.